"We don't need old men like you dragging us down," she said, flipping her hair as if dismissing me was a formality. "My name is Robert Kane. I'm 61 years old and had been the operations manager at Meridian Manufacturing in Cincinnati, Ohio for the past 20 years. Not the kind of man who made speeches or demanded attention in meetings, just the steady hand that kept the gears turning at a company that manufactured precision industrial equipment for factories across the Great Lakes region." I just smiled sarcastically, nodded once, and walked out of Jessica's office. No arguments, no threats, no drama. Just cleared out my desk methodically while the younger staff averted their eyes. Some of them had been hired as teenagers, now men and women with families, and I'd trained every single one. But nobody said a word as I packed up 2 decades of my life into a cardboard box. Samuel Meridian had built the company with his own hands 45 years ago. Started with a single machine shop in his garage, built it into a $35 million business through pure determination and a reputation for equipment that never failed. He'd hand-picked me to run operations when his arthritis started making the tools too heavy to hold. "You're the only one I trust not to cut corners," he'd said. Now his daughter Jessica, 30 years old with an MBA and 3 years managing a consulting firm in Atlanta, had decided the company needed strategic realignment and dynamic leadership, code for getting rid of anyone who remembered how things were done before algorithms replaced intuition. As I walked to my truck carrying that pathetic box of personal items, I felt a strange calm. Because what Jessica didn't know, what she hadn't even bothered to check, was that my employment contract had a very specific clause. One that Samuel himself had insisted on to prevent competitors from stealing me away, a severance penalty equal to 2 full years' salary if I was terminated without documented cause. The first warning sign had come about 18 months ago when Jessica started appearing at production meetings, fresh out of business school, carrying a designer briefcase and talking about operational synergies and market optimization. I'd catch Samuel wincing sometimes at her suggestions, proposals that would have gutted our quality standards or outsourced components we'd always crafted in-house. But he never contradicted her publicly, just quietly fixed things afterwards. "She needs to learn, Robert," he told me one afternoon, leaning against my office doorframe. "Some lessons can't come from textbooks." The second warning was when Samuel announced his retirement 4 months ago. "Heart problems," he said, though I suspected it was more about surrendering to Jessica's pressure to modernize or die. He looked defeated when he handed me the updated organization chart with Jessica's name at the top. Before we continue, if you're loving these stories, smash that like button and subscribe for daily tales that'll keep you on the edge of your seat. Now back to the story. "I made her promise to keep the core team intact," he'd said, not quite meeting my eyes. "The experience you all bring is what makes this place work." I just nodded, but something in my gut tightened. The way Samuel wouldn't look directly at me, like he knew what was coming but couldn't bring himself to say it. The morning after my termination, I was sitting at my kitchen table reviewing my employment contract with Marcus Webb, a lawyer friend who'd been waiting for an excuse to take on a corporate case this straightforward, when my phone rang. Samuel's name lit up the screen. I almost didn't answer it. Almost. But 20 years of respect doesn't vanish overnight. "Robert," his voice sounded strained. "What the hell happened yesterday?" "Ask your daughter," I said, keeping my tone neutral. Not angry, just stating facts. "I did. She said you were," he paused, searching for words, resistant to the new direction. "Said you were undermining her authority with the production team." I said nothing, just let the silence stretch between us. Samuel knew me better than that, knew I'd never undermined anyone. "You're going to file, aren't you?" he finally asked. "Already have," I replied. "Marcus Webb is handling it." Samuel exhaled heavily. "I told her to look at the contracts, told her before I stepped down that there were protections in place." Another pause. "She said she cleaned house yesterday." "You, David, Patricia, anyone over 50. My jaw tightened. David had been our head of engineering for 15 years. Patricia ran the quality control department like it was her personal mission. Both irreplaceable in their own ways. Is that the direction you wanted, Samuel? Clearing out everyone who built the place with you? You know it's not, he said, voice tired. But I gave her control. It's hers to run now. I heard voices in the background on his end, one of them distinctly Jessica's, sharp and demanding. I've got to go, Samuel said quickly. She's. The call ended abruptly. 3 days after being fired, I sat across from Jessica and Meridian Manufacturing's corporate attorney in a downtown office. Marcus Webb beside me, his weathered briefcase open, my contract prominently displayed. This is ridiculous, Jessica said, not even looking at the document. We're implementing a new strategic direction. That's 'cause enough. Marcus, 70 years old with the patient demeanor of a man who'd seen every corporate trick, simply pointed to the highlighted clause. Termination without cause, as defined in Appendix C, requires severance equal to 24 months' salary, approximately $340,000 in Mr. Kane's case. The corporate lawyer, young guy named Brandon who looked fresh out of law school, scanned the contract with growing discomfort. Miss Meridian, the definition of cause here is quite specific. Performance issues, ethical violations, criminal acts. He was resistant to change, Jessica interrupted, crossing her arms. That's insubordination. Where's the documentation? Marcus asked. Written warnings? Performance improvement plans? Because Appendix C requires a documented pattern, not a single instance. Brandon flipped through a thin folder in front of him, finding nothing. Jessica's face tightened. Fine. So we pay him a few months severance and move on. 24 months, Marcus corrected. As stipulated. That's ridiculous, she snapped. We'll offer 6 months. Take it or leave it. I stayed silent, watching her. In that moment, she reminded me of her father, the same stubborn set to her jaw. But Samuel's stubbornness had always been in service of building something. Hers seemed aimed at tearing down. Marcus closed his briefcase. Then we'll proceed with legal action. Discovery should be interesting, especially regarding the simultaneous termination of multiple employees over 50. Brandon's eyes widened slightly. He leaned toward Jessica and whispered something urgent. She brushed him off. Before you make threats, Jessica said to me, ignoring Marcus completely, you should know we're prepared to fight this. You'll be tied up in court for years. I finally spoke, I've got time. And we'll make it known throughout the industry that you're difficult, she added. Good luck finding another position at your age. That's when her father appeared in the doorway. I hadn't seen Samuel since his retirement party. He looked thinner, more frail, but his eyes were sharp as ever. Jessica, he said quietly, a word. We're in the middle of something, Dad. Now. Not a request. They stepped outside. Through the glass wall of the conference room, I could see them arguing, Samuel gesturing emphatically, Jessica's posture growing more defensive. When they returned, Jessica wouldn't look at me. Brandon, Samuel said, prepare the severance agreement as written in the contract. Dad, Jessica started. Not now. Samuel turned to me. I apologize, Robert. This isn't how I wanted things to end. I nodded once. Nothing more needed to be said between us. As Marcus and I stood to leave, Jessica stepped in front of me. This isn't over. I'll be reviewing all vendor relationships. Any company that hires you can forget about doing business with Meridian. Samuel paled at her words but said nothing. I just nodded again, thinking about my conversation the day before with Edmund Torres, owner of Precision Components across town, a man who'd been trying to hire me away from Meridian for years. You're right about one thing, I told her. It isn't over. The severance payment hit my account a week later. $340,000 minus taxes, more money than I'd ever seen at once. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I felt hollow. Money wasn't the point, neither was revenge really. It was about something deeper. That same afternoon, I met David Chen, our former head of engineering, at a coffee shop downtown. The place was nearly empty at 3 p.m., just a few students at laptops and us at a corner table. "Marcus got me 8 months severance," he said, stirring his coffee without drinking it. "Not as good as your deal, but better than nothing. They want me to sign an NDA." David nodded. "Can't discuss proprietary processes or business practices for 5 years." He gave a bitter laugh. 42 years in engineering, and suddenly I can't talk about my own work. "You signing it?" "Don't see much choice. Got a son starting medical school next year." I pushed a business card across the table. "Edmund Torres, Precision Components. He's looking for a consultant, someone who understands precision manufacturing. No NDA required." David stared at the card. "Meridian would sue me if I took this." "Not if you're just advising on general industry standards. Nothing proprietary about that." He pocketed the card slowly. "What's going on, Robert? This isn't like you, stirring the pot." I hadn't told anyone about my arrangement with Edmund yet, but David deserved to know. We'd worked side by side for over a decade. "I'm partnering with Precision," I said quietly. "Edmund's bringing me in to head up a new division, Specialized Precision Components. The small batch, high-margin work Jessica thinks is a waste of time." David's eyebrows shot up. The custom work Samuel always said was Meridian's future. And Jessica's killing it to focus on mass production. Thinks she can compete with overseas manufacturers on price. "She can't," David said flatly. "Not with our labor costs." "I know. So does Samuel." David leaned forward. "Is that why you're telling me this? You think Samuel's involved somehow?" I shook my head. "No. But I had lunch with Patricia yesterday. She said Jessica's been liquidating equipment, the specialized machinery Samuel bought last year for the custom work. She's already sold half of it. That's over $2 million in equipment," David said, eyes wide. "At auction prices, probably got 30 cents on the dollar." David sat back, understanding dawning. "She's stripping the company. Converting assets to cash." I nodded. "And guess who's been buying real estate in Atlanta?" "Jesus." David ran a hand over his face. "Does Samuel know?" "I don't think so. He built that company for legacy, not liquidation." We sat in silence for a moment, both processing what this meant, not just for us, but for the 120 employees still at Meridian, for Samuel's life's work. "What are you going to do?" David finally asked. "Build something better," I said simply. "Something that respects both the past and the future." 2 months after my firing, I sat in Edmund Torres's office reviewing architectural plans for the new facility. The converted warehouse on the west side of Cincinnati would house Keystone Precision, our new venture specializing in custom manufacturing components. The name had been David's idea, build from the keystone up, that's how you make something that lasts. Edmund, a compact man with silver hair and perpetually rolled sleeves, spread the supplier contracts across his desk. "Machine shops confirmed," he said. "They can deliver the first 6 units by next month. And the CNC programmer starts Monday." Edmund gave me a knowing look. "Former Meridian employee. Said you recommended him." I nodded. Kevin Martinez had been at Meridian for 8 years, brilliant with computer modeling, criminally underpaid. Jessica had cut his department's budget by 40% while doubling her own salary. He'd quit 3 weeks ago. "How many does that make now?" Edmund asked. 9, I replied. "All top performers." Edmund whistled low. "Meridian's losing talent fast. People follow good leadership," I said. "Jessica's not providing it." My phone buzzed, a text from Patricia, still working in Meridian's lab but feeding me information. With her retirement 2 years away, she couldn't afford to leave, but she could certainly keep her eyes open. The message contained a photo of an internal memo, production delays, quality control issues, for major clients threatening to pull contracts over missed deadlines. I showed it to Edmund, who adjusted his reading glasses to see better. Just as we predicted, he said. The brain drain's affecting output already. I pocketed my phone, feeling no satisfaction in the news. Meridian employed families I'd known for years, people with mortgages, kids in college, parents in nursing homes. Their suffering wasn't my goal. We should reach out to Great Lakes Manufacturing, I said, referring to one of Meridian's biggest clients. Let them know we'll be operational in 60 days. Edmund nodded, making a note. Already scheduled a meeting for next week. Their purchasing manager's eager to talk. I stood and walked to the window overlooking the warehouse floor below. Workers were installing the first pieces of equipment, the bones of something new, something built on respect for experience and innovation alike. My phone rang. Samuel Meridian's name on the screen. I should take this, I told Edmund, who nodded and stepped out, closing the door behind him. Samuel, I answered. Robert, his voice sounded tired, defeated. We need to talk. I'm listening. A heavy sigh. I know what you're doing. The new company. The Meridian employees you're hiring away. I said nothing. It wasn't illegal, wasn't even unethical. Just business. I'm not calling to ask you to stop, Samuel continued. I'm calling to ask for your help. That caught me off guard. What kind of help? The kind that might save what's left of my company. He paused. Jessica's been selling off assets, cutting corners on quality. The board's concerned. So am I. Why tell me this? Because you're the only one who knows every part of the operation. The only one who might see a path forward. Another pause. And because I should have listened to you months ago when you warned me she wasn't ready. I closed my eyes, thought about all those years working alongside Samuel, building something we were both proud of, something that employed hundreds of people who trusted us to make good decisions. What exactly are you asking, Samuel? Come to my house tonight. 7 o'clock. Bring David if he's willing. The board wants to meet to discuss. Options. Options? Yes, Samuel's voice strengthened slightly. Including a change in leadership. I looked down at the warehouse floor again, at our small but growing operation, at the future I'd been building out of the ashes of betrayal. I'll be there, I said finally. But I'm not promising anything. Fair enough, relief evident in his voice. And Robert? Yes. Thank you for still taking my calls. 6 months after being fired, I stood in the back of Meridian Manufacturing's main conference room. The quarterly all-hands meeting had just been called to order, with Jessica at the head of the table, flanked by her new executive team, most under 35, all looking nervous. I wasn't supposed to speak until the end. That had been the agreement with the board. Let Jessica present her quarterly results first, give her the chance to explain the 41% drop in revenue, the lost contracts, the quality control failures. She was halfway through a presentation blaming market conditions and legacy inefficiencies, when she noticed me. What is he doing here? She demanded, pointing in my direction. Samuel, sitting quietly among the board members, nodded to the chairman, who stood. Jessica, the chairman said, the board has reached a decision regarding the company's leadership. Her face went white. You can't be serious. Robert, the chairman continued, turning to me, would you like to explain the new arrangement? I stepped forward, holding a folder, the same one Marcus had prepared for my severance 6 months earlier, but with very different contents now. Meridian Manufacturing is merging with Keystone Precision, I said, my voice steady. The board approved the acquisition agreement this morning. Jessica laughed sharply. This is absurd. I'm the majority shareholder. No, Samuel said, standing slowly. You hold 25%. I maintained 51%, which I've now voted in favor of the merger. I slid the folder across the table to her. Keystone will absorb Meridian's custom manufacturing division. The rest will continue under new leadership. My leadership, David said, stepping in from the doorway. Jessica flipped through the documents, her hands shaking. This is business, I finished for her. Nothing personal. A year after the merger, I stood in the expanded production facility that now housed both Keystone Precision and Meridian Custom Manufacturing. Workers moved efficiently between stations, the rhythm of machinery creating a symphony of productivity I'd missed during my months away. Samuel joined me on the observation platform, moving slowly but steadily. His health had stabilized, and watching the company thrive again had been the best medicine. Quarterly numbers came in, he said, handing me a report. Best in 6 years. I nodded, scanning the figures. Profit margins up, employee retention stabilized, 5 new patents filed. Jessica called yesterday, Samuel said quietly. From Atlanta. I raised an eyebrow but said nothing. After the merger, she took her settlement and disappeared. No goodbyes, no apologies. He continued, she's starting a consulting firm. Asked if I'd invest. Will you? Samuel shook his head. Told her to come back to Cincinnati first. Learn the business from the ground up, the way I did, the way you did. He smiled sadly. And she hung up. Below us, I watched Kevin training 3 new programmers on our latest system, Patricia in her lab coat inspecting components with her characteristic precision, David at a workstation sketching a design modification by hand before transferring it to computer. Experience and innovation working side by side. Not in conflict, not one replacing the other, but building something stronger together. You know, Samuel said, when I wrote that severance clause in your contract, I never imagined how it would turn out. I smiled. Neither did I. We stood in comfortable silence, watching the company we'd both helped build continue to grow. Some lessons are expensive, but the ones that stick, the ones that change how we see the world, those are always worth the price. Sometimes the end of one thing is just the beginning of something better. Sometimes experience isn't the enemy of progress, it's the foundation that makes real progress possible.